evening and welcome to Inception podcast here in the UK. And before I introduce my guest, where we're going to have a good conversation, I would just like to say you can find Inception podcast on the Forbidden Knowledge News Network, where you'll also find amazing, inspirational and conscious expanding interviews. At the moment, it's building up rapidly every week, and soon I will not be able to read Chris Matthews' list out. We have the Quantum Guide Show, a new podcast, connect with us, wonderful. Understanding Propaganda, Raised by Giants, Dawson Time, Day Zero, Beyond Classified, and Forbidden Knowledge News. So please connect to the Forbidden Knowledge News Network. And there are amazing free podcasts you can listen to or watch. Now I've got past that one. I would like to welcome Jay to the conversation. Good evening in the UK. What time is it there, Jay?
About 11 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, so good morning. What part of America are you in?
I'm in the southern Colorado Rocky Mountain area.
Rocky Mountain, wow.
A very beautiful place.
Oh, I bet it is. And earlier on when Jay came online, I noticed the beautiful artwork at the back. And you guys know that I'm an artist myself. I think that's stunning and I'm attracted to that. So there you go. So Jay, we're going to go down the rabbit hole. We hope to go down the rabbit hole and just have an organic conversation about our truths, what we think's going on with us, okay? So the first door we're going to go into is, in your truth, from your perspective, what is the human experience?
The human experience is that we are originally spiritual beings, and what we do is we occupy onion layers of an onion. Outwards from the earth. We occupy these zones that we can't see with our physical eyes, but they're there. And when we're in these zones, we do observe the earth and what's going on. And then occasionally we decide that we want to go have a physical experience. So, and there's a reason for that. They just don't ad hoc go, oh, I want to go have a physical experience. What happens is you begin to have questions about reality that can only be experienced in the physical world. So you choose to have a physical experience and you come here, and this is like a school. And if you are not pursuing your personal experience in this physical reality, you're wasting your time, and you need to get serious, because every day is a precious gift in which you as a spiritual being are being given this time to, yes, butt up against reality, have reality smack you down, and you have to get back up, and all those things that do not happen in the spiritual world but do happen here. Insults and love and pets and, walking in the woods and all those things are all part of it. If you're not actively pursuing a conscious life every day, every minute, you're wasting your precious time, and you don't even know why you're here. It's time to start asking yourself, why the hell did I come here? And what am I supposed to be doing? And until that happens, you're wasting resources.
I love that. That was powerful. Wow. I love that. And yes, I may say it differently, but it so resonates with me. Okay, now we're going. Okay, so I've shut the door one. I'm opening door two. On the back of that, so you stated you are a spiritual being. So we all use different terminologies to describe the indescribable. So I would say I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, or I'm a multidimensional being, or I'm consciousness. So when I come back at you and say, well, on the back of what you just said, if you asked yourself, who am I at the true source, like in your case, a spiritual being, what is the components of the spiritual being? What is this? Is it source? Is it What is it? What is it? Who am I that's come here to have this human experience and experience all the things you've just spoke about?
Okay, so there's four states of matter in physics.
Mm-hmm.
There's the solid, there's the liquid, there's the gas, and then there's plasma.
Mm-hmm.
Plasma is 99% of the universe. Okay, the other three are 1% of the universe. Okay, so what is plasma? Plasma is electrical charges, electrons stripped from their atom and floating, and they create a gas, electrical gas. And most plasma is invisible. What we call dark matter is plasma. Scientists have not gone to the fact that it's plasma yet, but they're getting there. Mm-hmm. And we know that we have infrared cameras that can photograph plasma beings that are in our skies. Mm-hmm. I have seen them with my own eyes. Mm-hmm. And we're surrounded by all of these invisible creatures that we don't even realize exist. They're probably in the room even with us right now. Yeah. And so these plasma states are super important. And when you go out through these concentric layers of the onion outwards from the earth, and also goes inward too, by the way, into the earth. So there's 7 layers that goes outwards. Each layer, you learn something different. Mm-hmm. Each layer is more fantastic. There's fantastic architecture in some of the layers. Some of the layers are immense. Journeys can be taken, and infinity can be experienced, and all these layers are out there. And what you do here on Earth determines which layer you go to. Now, if you're a fundamentalist kind of religious person, you're probably only going to get to layer 1. Yeah. Layer 1 is where you're taught that everything that you learned here is BS. Yeah. That's pretty much what that layer teaches you. Yeah. And then when you got to the outside layer, now you have the chance to no longer incarnate. Mm-hmm. You now have the chance to move to the next realm of consciousness. Okay. Right? This takes centuries for the soul to experience all of this, and many lifetimes. And until you understand this whole thing here in this physical reality, you can't conceive it in the spiritual world. That's why it's so necessary to come here and to get your butt kicked in, because it's in that process that you learn that, I have to detach. Mm-hmm. I have to love and I have to forgive, but I also have to detach. I have to back away from this reality. I need to be in this world, but not of this world. Yes. Because there's so many other worlds that you don't want to it's just a brief moment in time of your spiritual journey in which you come here and you experience sex and love and drugs and happiness and, parachuting and skydiving and all the great things that we all love to do. And then when you die, you take all of those experiences and they all go back into this life record that we call the Akashic record. And then you are then moved to that whatever layer you have. And it's very important. This kind of pisses off teenagers, but I say it anyway. Mm-hmm. There's 7 layers below too. Okay, go on. What people don't realize is that miners who mine deep down, like mile deep mines, they hear what they call phantom crying. I don't know if you know this or not, but they'll be, working away in the mine and they'll hear people screaming. Mm-hmm. They hear it and they don't know where it's coming from, and there's nobody around, but they hear it. And so there's 7 concentric layers that go down into the earth, and this is where you go when you've lived a really nasty life. You don't go down there forever. It's not eternal. You go down there until you ascend from those lower positions back up into the earth again, where you now know that when you screw up, that's what's going to happen to you. And, there is a punishment. There is a spiritual punishment for doing wrong in this world. That's why you can't do wrong. That's why you can't lie. You can't steal. You just can't. It's like you don't even want to risk it. In Egyptian mythology, your soul is weighed when you die. If it's heavier than the feather, you go down into Hades, right? If it's not heavy enough, you go up into these realms, what they call the coup. The body, the light body is the coup. It goes up. It's a bird. It's simple bird, and it goes up into these upper realms. And when Egyptians would die, and they would bury them, they would always tilt the head up to looking up into the sky, right? And there, because that's where you want the soul to go. You want the soul to go this way, right? And then of course you have your ka, which is the soul that stays here. It's the residual from the body. And it doesn't disappear from this plane until your bones are completely turned to dust. So unless you cremate. Cremation is a way to hurry that process up, to get the ka to dissipate quickly. There are schools of thought that say that's not a very good thing to do because you want to take a long process for the ka to kind of assimilate what happened here. All right. And that cremation may be too fast for that to happen. But I don't know. I'm not an expert on any of that. But so your place up in the spheres above us is determined by what you do here and how you interact with people and what you believe and what you study. Art is a great way to center the soul. And I'm so thankful that I'm an artist. I'm not a painter like you. I wish I was, to be honest with you. I'm terribly jealous of people who can paint like you because you're all alone, you can do it, and you take your time, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, and making films is so bloody expensive.
But I'm jealous of you and your films and what you do. I've always wanted, I made one documentary way back, and it was work related, and I made the trailer to the podcast. I love it. So, we're here having the experience, but it would be really boring, Jay, if we both experienced the same thing, wouldn't it? It's the diversity of coming here. I want to go back on some of the things you said. So, and you've mentioned it when I asked you, who am I? You mentioned a few times a soul. So from your truth that you are a soul coming here, having a human experience. Okay, a soul. I'm going to go a bit deeper on this because we're in door 2. We've gone down the rabbit hole. We're camping out now. I don't know what you're drinking, but I'm just, at the moment, I'm on the coffee. You can drink whatever you want. I'm on the coffee. Oh, you're on the water. I'm on the coffee. This soul that you are that's come here to experience this, what is its components? Is it, like, for example, I'll come back to give a reference to the question and a context. This soul or being is consciousness, just consciousness, no other. So that's just, condensed right down. So what is your description of this soul that you call yourself that's come in to have this experience? What's it made of? What's its components? Is it God?
It's part of the creation network. So it's like the ocean is consciousness. And then when a wave rises up and the ocean splits into little droplets, that's physical reality. That's when we separated from the ocean, and now we're in physical reality, and then we come right back down into the ocean again, back into the sea of consciousness. And but we're still individuated. That's what's so important. And so when you have your pet, you have your dog, right? And you keep calling your dog, right? You have a dog named Martha, and you get it as a little pet and you call it Martha, and then the dog matures, right? It begins to think of itself as Martha, right? Oh, I'm Martha. Oh, every time he says Martha, that's me. All right. So what's going on is this doesn't happen in the wild, in a wolf pack. They don't individuate. They don't individuate. So what you're doing with your pet is the pet begins thinking of itself as an individual instead of part of a pack. That is the path towards consciousness. What you're actually doing with your pet is you're getting it ready to become a human, because that's the next step is it the individuation. And if you have a pet and you do this, you can kind of feel that they want to be a human.
Yeah,
especially if they get older. When they get about 6 or 7 years old, you can kind of see that they're become vastly interested in the human experience and the variety of foods that we have and the music, and even my cat even watches TV with me.
That's beautiful, Jay. I hold you there, hold it, pump the brakes there. I love that, because I've often, because I've had dogs and cats at one point, 4 cats, and I've often thought, sometimes when you communicate with them, you're very human-like, you can just, and you go, nah. But you've just raised an important question that we are going to digress slightly, but that's good. I like how you extrapolated from that. And I'd love to hear more, like eventually it would follow, wouldn't it? That you've said, well, the dog will evolve its consciousness to experience a human experience, because we're talking now that as Homo sapiens sapiens, we're aware we're losing our humanness, so to speak, our beliefs, our social determinants, our labels, our judgments, our fears, everything human. We're aware it's just dissipating. And I like what you've just said. And I'm sure our pets would love it too. But there is many studies being done on animals to say how connected they are now to the human being, to the response. And I've digressed, but I wanted to throw that in, that I love that. I do love that. And when you come on the show next year, maybe if you've got any more info on that, that would be wonderful to bring forward. So I like that. Okay, I've got your...
You know about Rupert Sheldrake's experiments with the guy and his dog?
I'm fully aware of his experiments. And that's where I become familiar. That's where I become familiar years ago. And I haven't heard really anyone go deeper than that. And until you've mentioned it, that's why I had to say, let's digress just slightly. But yes, I have. I'm aware of his experiments. And but it's never been in the forefront of my consciousness to go into it anymore. However, now you've raised it in that context, I'm really interested. And well, everything is evolving. It's not just Homo sapiens sapien, it's the universe. Every single entity, every being, every plant, is evolving. And that just puts a fresh take on it. And I think I'm going to have to look into that. But thank you for sharing that on that one. But we digressed. That was my fault. Sorry, guys. So we're going through door 3 now, and on the back of what we've come to, you've touched on it slightly through your explanation. But I'm going to ask you still, in door number 3, we're camped down. You've got your water. I'm still on the coffee. You haven't turned me to vodka. Sonia Barrett turned me to vodka, I think, because she just blew my mind. I was like, oh my God, I can't take. And she kicked me off my bed. How dare she? We're right down the rabbit hole. Why then are we here? We've touched upon it, but can you expand upon it? Like you did say in the beginning, we chose to come here, or, why? Could you go and expand on the why we're here, please, from your truth?
All right. So the Gnostics were this amazing people that lived about 2,000 years ago in the Middle East. And they wrote the Nag Hammadi texts, the Gospels of Mary and Thomas. And they believed that what the Gnostics believe is that there was once a unified light and this would be plasma, and that it split into billions and billions and billions of little tiny fragments of light. And and these would be plasma. And these little bits, their goal is to reunite with the central light of the universe. And we're way out here, way far away from it. And we're trying to work our way back to it. And the only way that you can work your way back is through this series of incarnations where this light, which is your spirit, your soul, it learns to never come back here again. Yes. That's the goal. The goal is to learn to incarnate here until you never have to incarnate here anymore. You've learned your lessons. It's, that's one of the things that I emphasize when I tell people about, their journey. I said, wake up every day and learn as much about this place as you can. Learn about everything about this place, about the emotional landscape, the physical landscape, the people, the mountains, the deserts, the oceans. Learn everything you can, because that's the goal. Is once you got it all and you figured it out, you go to that outer sphere, you're done with this particular part of your journey back to the central sun, the central light. And that's the goal. So, worrying about money and worrying about what other people think of you is completely non-productive in this world.
I always say, and it's none of your business what other people think about you. Don't even go there.
That's what I say too.
Yeah, none of your business.
When I get insulted, that's exactly what I say. What you think about me is none of my business.
None of my business. Just get on with it, because I'm not. I always say, I'm not coming back. I'm out of here, because it's a realization you have that you've experienced the experience and it's over. You just there's a realization in some conscious, you just go, that's it. There's a few bits hanging, there's a few bits going on. But I won't digress again. I won't. I could.
So, go on. Yeah. So one of the most important things to understand here is that, I know, really hard to say this. I want to make sure I say it the right way. Okay. When it is, in a lot of times, in order for your spiritual journey here to be perfected, sometimes it requires a sacrifice. And I hate to say that, but because it sounds kind of nasty and everything. And I think we're reaching a point right now in this world where there may be mass sacrifices. In other words, you can't break the rules. If you break the rules, you're screwed. So you can't break the rules. So if they're coming to do things to you that you don't want to have happen because they violate the rules, it may require a sacrifice. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I'm willing to sacrifice myself to not violate the rules that I live by. And one of the rules I live by is I do not put anything in my body that hasn't been tested by the human race for at least 2,000 years. That's my rule. And I don't break that rule. I only eat stuff that humans have been eating. I don't eat processed food. I don't take any kind of processed drinks or anything, because I will not touch it, because it's new. And so I won't do it. So that's my rule for my own body and my own health. It's my body, it's my choice. And, and it's not just my body, it's the temple of my soul. And I cannot have it violated.
I love that. I love that. And I totally understood what you were saying there. And I'm in total agreement with you there, Jay. Absolutely. Okay, now we're halfway through. We're going into door 4. And again, you have touched on it at the beginning, but I really would like you to expand upon this. So the door 4 is, what is this reality? Now, to reference it from me, I could say it. I have 2 analogies I use. I do swap now and again, but my analogy that really resonates with me is, this is like a film. I'm a character in the film, but I'm part of the film. I'm directing it, I'm scripting it, I'm creating it by every choice and action I make. But I have a space between me and the reality I'm in. I'm not it, so to speak. So that is my analogy. Some people say it's, I like the analogy of the holographic universe, or a simulation, or a superhighway. It's all the same. We're all trying to express the inexpressible. But from your truth, what is this 3D reality that we're in, Jay?
Well, let's see. So the universe sets up a place where we can physically learn that we are beings of light.
Okay.
And we can, when you're a fish, you don't know you're in water. It's just what surrounds you. All right. When you're a human, you don't know that you live in a river or an ocean of plasma. Okay. And that actually the earth is the floor of a giant ocean of plasma that lives all around the earth, and it goes way out beyond the moon, and it's huge, and it's filled with living creatures that you can't see. The space shuttle did an experiment about 20 years ago where they put a copper wire out of the space shuttle for like a half a mile, and they videotaped it, and you can see it. Can't remember the mission, but just type in Google, YouTube, space shuttle, spheres of light. Anyway, all these spheres of light started gathering around the copper wire, and they're everywhere. And in fact, the ISIS mission up in the Russia-U.S. ISIS mission, constantly they're videotaping these spheres of light that are flying around the space station, and they're everywhere. When you live in special places like where I live in Southern Colorado, I live in a notorious UFO place where hundreds and hundreds of UFOs and all sorts of beings are seen, and it's just one of these like places where the worlds kind of interact with each other. By the way, the reason that temples are usually in the mountains is because they're trying to get up into these spheres I'm talking about. They're trying to get up higher into these spheres, and it's lighter up in the mountains than it is lower at sea level. So the whole point here is to take your experience that you have here, and what you want to do is you don't want to be like a piece of wood in a raging river and you're just kind of thrashing about left and right. That is not the way you want to live your life every day consciously. You want to wake up every day. What am I doing here? What am I going to accomplish today? What is it that, what can I do to make this world a better place? What can I do to make me a better person? And you need to create a sacred space within your place that you dwell. And it's so important. I cannot overemphasize this part of existence. I put these guys all over my house.
Okay, yeah.
All over my house, I have these guys, all of my garden. Every time I have a plant that starts, these are plasma generators, orgone generators.
Yeah.
And every time, if I have a plant in my garden which is dying, a tomato plant or something, I plop one of these right down next to it and it starts reviving.
Wow.
So your whole life has to be filled with prayer and meditation and devotion, and to the cause of you becoming a better spiritual entity when you leave this world. And we all leave this world. Yeah. Now, alchemy. People say, "Oh, alchemists, they want to live forever." They don't. That's not what they're doing. They know that 70 years isn't enough time to accomplish the goal of getting that outer sphere. The devotion and the practice, no matter how much, 70 years is not enough time. So they went out and they sought an elixir that would let them live to be 150 to 200 years old. So they would have enough time. The Taoist masters are the same thing. They needed to have that time. The problem is that every time the Taoist masters or the alchemists would get to 120 years, they would get noticed by the authorities. And the kings and whatever, the popes would want to know what their trick was. And, they would imprison them. Yes. So until they told their secrets, what they didn't realize is that the alchemist can't make the king live forever. The alchemist can only make himself or herself live forever, or not live forever, live to an extended life. And they're not doing it because they're greedy. They're doing it because they need that time. Pabba Simbaba was in the caves in Tibet for 200 years, just meditating in the cave for 200 years before he finally achieved light body, finally achieved rainbow body, which is the rainbow body is that outer sphere. So that it is a shimmering rainbow-like existence in that outer sphere, and so that was the goal of Tibetan Buddhism, was to try to achieve that light body here on earth. And that is the goal of alchemy also, is to achieve that light body. And it takes time, but they're not trying to live forever. You live forever. Believe me. Nobody dies. There's the universe is consciousness. Nothing dies. Everything exists. And it's so cool because right now, science is finally catching up. So ideas go through 4 stages. An idea starts with the mystic, then it moves to the artist, then it moves to the science, and then it moves to the politics. Okay, so that's where how an idea evolves down into the ground. So the mystics come up with this idea that we're creatures of light, and we're living in this universe, and we want to get back to this light. Okay, then the artists like Alex Gray and all the other artists, they start painting these light bodies so that they hear from their mystical teachers, right? That's what happened with Alex. He's a good friend of mine. So then what happens is that, and then people like me make films about the light body, you know. So the artists are now, scientists are looking through their telescopes and they're seeing these weird formations out in space that are floating layers of plasma, and they're going, what is that? And they're called Birkeland currents. And what they found out is that these currents are connecting all the stars together, and this huge network of plasma connections in all directions. And now the scientists are seeing what we as artists saw, what the mystics saw 150, 200 years ago, right, with Madame Blavatsky and all those people. Now finally the scientists are going, wait a minute, this universe is not solid matter at all. It's made up of plasma light, and it's everywhere, and it's everything, and we're like hardly any part of it. And here's the cool part. So there's 4 states of matter. Okay? There's solid, liquid, gas, and plasma. In alchemy, there's 4 states of matter. There's earth, which is solid. There's air, which is gas. There's water, which is liquid. And there's fire, which is plasma. It's the secret fire of alchemy. It's the fire that does not burn. It is the fire that doesn't make things get hot. This is what they keep telling you in alchemy books, and you have to find the secret fire before you can achieve what you need to achieve. And that secret fire is taking, so you're surrounded by all this invisible plasma. It's everywhere, all around us. So what is the Philosopher's Stone? The Philosopher's Stone is an object which absorbs plasma. And then you take a little piece of it and you consume it. All right. So what you want, so what consumes this plasma? How can you store this plasma? Well, you can store the plasma within you, within your spinal system, right? It can absorb this plasma, and you have a body, and it goes all around you. It's a rainbow body. And as you gain more and more plasma energy into you, this chi, this prana, this body, this outer body grows, and it gets more and more intense. And you've seen people that look like they have a light around them. That's what they're doing. They have a light around them, and they're in a lot of ways impervious. You know, those people that walk through the raindrops without getting wet. You know what I mean? There's like these special people. It's like, you know, that's what they're doing. They're either they're naturally doing it somehow, or they've got the practices that they're doing to do this. And you have to do it every day. It has to be a conscious thing. And once you achieve this kind of realization, it's like Terence McKenna once said to me that nature loves the courageous, Jay, and it breaks down barriers for the courageous.
Yeah.
And that's what I found. I found that the people around me that aren't doing these things are always kind of hitting stuff, bouncing into stuff, and not being knocked down. And I got this weird, I'm knocking on wood right now because I don't want to jinx myself, but I've always had this like weird, sinewy way of dealing with reality, where more like akin to like a surfer who has to depend on the waves below him to propel him. So he's not trying. In other words, you don't try. It just happens.
I always say I flow. I find it's I can't even explain it. I use the word I flow with life before, way back before being aware of who I am. I would try to control the external. I did that with money. Yeah, everyone does it. For the first 35 years of my life, I was so concerned with money. And then at 35, I said, I'm done with money, forget it. And then all of a sudden I started making money. Yeah, and in my case, it was controlling around me. But once I let go of the control, which covers, it's multifaceted. We don't want to digress down there. I just flow with whatever comes. I allow. And then I equate it to like being a snake, not in a negative connotation. No. Just hovering above the surface, going round. I don't want to experience that. None of my business. Off I go, and I flow. So I get your reality. Okay, I'm going to take you now into door number 5. Okay, this is where we're going to touch upon other sentient beings or conscious beings. Okay? So door number 5 is who is ET? Now, however, who is ET is an umbrella title. It could be the grays that I've experienced and the other beings. It could be angels. It could be anything and all of the above. Everyone, as it should be, has different interpretations. Otherwise, it'd be really boring. But from your truth, who are these ETs, these beings we are interacting with now?
All right. So there's different things. There's multidimensional beings that we interact with. We call them angels. Yeah. There are helpers. They help you. They're like, tell you, oh, don't go that way, go this way, and all this. And turn left. And don't. But there's also something, and I've known about this for a long time, but I'm just now being open and talking about it because I don't care anymore. Mm-hmm. But there's evidence. So Kardashev was a Russian astrophysicist, mm-hmm. and he said that there's 3 types of civilizations. Mm-hmm. There's a type of civilization where a species has technological dominance over their planet. Mm-hmm. That's a type 1. Then there's a species that has technological dominance over their solar system. That's a type 2. Mm-hmm. Then there's a species that has technological dominance over their galaxy, which is type 3, like the Foundation series by Isaac Asimov, which is on TV right now, which is actually pretty good. But that's a type 3 civilization. Okay. In my research, have seen intelligently built structures on every hard planet in our solar system. Mm-hmm. And I mean, they're modern, intelligently built structures, okay, with ships flying around. Mm-hmm. Venus has it, Mercury has it, Mars has it, the Earth has it, of course. Moon has it, the moons of Jupiter have it, the moons of Saturn have it. And then we look at, the high weirdness of the gas giants, how weird they are. So what I have concluded is that there is a type 2 civilization running our solar system. Mm-hmm. It hides, though. Why it's hiding? It's not hiding from us, but it's hiding. And it hides itself by making its ship look like asteroids. Mm-hmm. It hides itself by making their structures look like mountains and other things. And they're not hiding from us, because I believe that the Earth is the farm for this type 2 civilization, that we provide the food and the water, genetics, probably animal life and everything else for this high type 2 civilization, which I believe is hiding from a larger type 3 civilization. That's what I really believe is going on.
Okay.
They have been interacting with us since we started.
Yeah.
They've been coming down here and directing our religions and directing our politics, and how many times has UFOs been seen taking water out of lakes, and how many times have they taken cows, and right, and we look at the Vedic text and the interactions with the gods, and the gods are asking for baskets of wheat and cows and sheep, and like, why are the gods asking for this? That's what we're here for. And so I believe that this type 2 civilization is a little bit pissed off right now at the managers of planet Earth, because they think we've wrecked the place, and we have. And so they're coming down with a reorganization plan. And I believe that's what we're in the middle of right now. We're in the middle of a reorg. And I don't know what the reorg is. I do assume that it's going to be lower population, less pollution, less travel. Like we're talking about air travel. That's probably over now. And I'm going to argue whether this is good or bad. I think we are wrecking the place, and maybe a little bit backing off of everything is warranted, actually. And, maybe people being a little more sustainable and growing their own food is a good thing, and all of that. And I don't eat their corporate food anyway, so I don't really care about it. But I believe that that we're going to have, and I actually know, I've heard from high-level intelligence people that they're going to introduce the aliens to us here soon, and that it's going to be an upsetting experience for a lot of people who aren't ready for this. I call them normies. The normies are not going to like what's about to happen here, because their entire worldview is going to be subsumed, consumed, and destroyed. And, we out here on the edge, I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be very affected by it. All right. I'm going to look at it and go, well, that's very interesting. Yes, I'd love to talk to this guy or this girl or who it is and have a long conversation with them, but I'm not going to get physically upset. But I have been told that the number one thing that they're worried about is the normies losing their shit when they see this guy. And this guy that has said this has seen it, has met it, has actually met the ETs. And by the way, I rolled this whole story about 2 civilization past him, and he said, "You're right. That's exactly what's going on." And he's a high-level German intelligence guy. And they're turning us into a type 1. I forgot to say that. What's going on right now with all the weird stuff last year and a half, 2 years, they're turning us into a type 1 civilization. We are going to have the technological control over the entire planet. And now here's what that means, so you understand. That means that the centralized AI is going to be in control of your thermostat, your count intake, how many hours you sleep, how many hours you work. This is where we're going with this. It's going to be a completely highly technological, AI-driven planet by 2030. That's the goal. It's Operation 2030. And that should clear up a little bit about what's going on with us right now. Is this a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know. I do have wrecked the place, and I am worried about that. I have to be honest with you.
No, that was a really in-depth, deep response, and thank you for sharing that. And my head is just trying to absorb it. More likely after the podcast, I'll watch it again and go, right, okay, here we go. That was fantastic. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, we're in door number 6. So these beings that you speak of, the next door is, how are we connected to them? Now, obviously, they've always been in our reality, the 3D Homo sapiens sapien reality from the beginning. They've always been there. So would you say, would I be correct in saying, from your truth that you've expressed already, they are the same conscious beings as we are, but in a different shape and form, experiencing their experience? Would that resonate with you, or can you?
Yeah. So my favorite film of all time, of course, is 2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yeah.
And what that movie is saying is that an exteriorized force reached down and took the ape man and transformed it into a human. And at the end of the movie, it took the human and transformed it into a superior being.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the child at the end, been transformed via light into a superior being. That's what they're doing with us right now. We're being transformed into a physically, not spiritually, physically superior being, both intellectually and physically. And we're probably going to have about 120. I'm talking about by 10 years from now, we're going to have 120, 140 year lifespan. We're going to be taking far fewer calories than we are now. We're going to be hooked into a in other words, what they're done is they're taking humans that live in little countries all over the world, and they're turning us into a type 1 civilization. And then we're quickly going to be turned into a type 2 civilization.
Okay.
That's where we're going.
On that, I mean, you've actually answered door number 7, why I'm here. So you've the reason so we'll go straight into door number 7. We're right down the rabbit hole now. And you're from your truth is they are here to do exactly what you've said they're to do, and to take us into a different a type 2 civilization. That's from your truth. No, that's absolutely fine. Again, after the podcast is finished, when I rewatch it, I will have to absorb, because you're introducing to me different concepts, which I love. The whole point of the podcast, I like to hear different truths. I love it. And it opens me up more to understanding other beings. So thank you for that. So what leaves us to door number 8, which is the last door, but not the end of the podcast per se, is, which you've also touched on to a degree, why are they interested in us? So I'm going to come back to that and say, well, Jay, after all that you've said from your truth, why are they doing this? What is this outcome? From your truth that you believe, why are they doing this to the Homo sapiens sapien?
Well, the ultimate goal, as far as I can ascertain, is that we have a gift, a technological gift. We are extremely gifted in engineering. And David Paulides is an American researcher who researches the missing persons that are in our national parks. Every year, hundreds and hundreds of people disappear without a trace. And he was an ex-policeman. He wanted to find out why. And he's a good friend of mine. And I asked him one time, about 2 years ago, I said, David, is there anything that, you've noticed, a pattern in these missing persons that you haven't really expressed publicly? And he said, yeah, there is one weird pattern. I said, well, what is it? He said, like 70% of the missing people are German descent. I said, really? And he said, yeah. And then I thought, who are the most technologically gifted people on earth? Sorry, it's the Germans, right? And then, of course, the secret space program originated in Germany in the 40s. And then those were transformed to the United States in Project Paperclip, where they became the guys who created our secret space program, okay, which is part of this type 2, type 1 interaction that's going on. They're giving they're giving little bits of information to the German scientists, and then they're extrapolating on in ways that they can't do. They're stunned by it. In fact, they're stunned by the creativity that we have mentally, and they're cultivating it. And that's what's going on. And then they're taking those and drawing them into their type 2 civilization. They're taking the geniuses. And he also said to me, David Paulides, that you would be incredibly surprised by how many high IQ scientists go missing in our parks.
I
And he
mean,
started,
I don't know about the
elaborate.
parks, but I've got to jump in there. I don't know about the parks. Over my life experience here, over as I delved deep in, researched, um, I become aware there was a period, I can't recall when, maybe 10 years ago. I'm no good with time anymore, where scientists were just I do recall that, where
Yeah, no, they were
scientists were,
in England.
were
No,
just disappearing.
yes,
And
they were.
then they would say, oh, it's conspiracy, conspiracy. But
Yep.
actually, you've just jogged my memory. In this reality that I've experienced, there was a period where these top scientists would disappear. So I don't know, but you have got me to recall something that
No,
I
no, they
have.
did.
Yeah,
It started in the 1970s and went all through the 80s and 90s. All these scientists just missing.
yeah,
One time, this is a really interesting story. This high-level scientist from the University of Washington was in the Olympic parks, and he gets out of his car in the parking lot to hike up a trail, right? And he's got like a Hawaiian. This is like fall. It's cold and raining. He's got like a Hawaiian shirt on, shorts on. He's completely conspicuous, right? Also, we're about to go hiking, see this guy, and he's like, "Hi, how are you?" And he's like making sure everybody sees him. And then he goes down the path, and he's never seen again, right? And you're like, "Wait a minute, say goodbye to everybody." Right? You really got to wonder. And
I mean,
and
I
so
don't know. I mean, all I know is there were many scientists, and I do remember they was in specific fields they were working. They were really highly intelligent, renowned PhDs, and I remembered that now. And it was a period where, but then it was conspiracy, and you would hear that there was these scientists that would just die. Well, supposed to die. Okay,
that's right.
Supposed to die.
So there was von Neumann, the guy that invented the computer.
Yeah.
He supposedly died at like 46.
Yeah.
Right. Then there's the Jack Parsons, who worked at JPL, who was a genius with chemical rockets. He supposedly dies in a house fire in 1953. And you start going, oh, he died. He got in an accident. And there's no trace of these guys. You can't find them. And we're a farm. We're a farm, and they're taking our geniuses.
I am aware of that history. I am aware. I know we've digressed, everybody, but it's really interesting, isn't it? And we like to digress now and again. I'm aware of that now. You've reminded me, and it does, add some validation to your truth. And it's interesting, and I will think upon it. Now, we've hit the 8 doors, Jay, and I mean, your truths and your analogies and your expression of your human experience is fascinating. You've got the cogs going in here for me, and I'm going to have to come back and watch it a few times. But before we end the podcast on everything we spoke about, and you touched on it in the beginning, if you could give a message to the audience that are watching, what you would like to share something from your conscious self, from who you truly are, about current times, or how to raise more awareness in their consciousness and to drop the fear, what would you leave the audience in this podcast, Jay?
Fear is a useful thing to have when you're out in the woods and a mountain lion crosses in front of you. If you're not afraid, you're crazy.
Yeah.
So fear is a useful thing, but it's not the only thing. Mm-hmm. We know that the ecological tests have been shown that you can control people through fear. Yeah. And so they're using fear to control us. Mm-hmm. And so when you come up against someone who's fearful, you need to do everything you can to calm that person down and make them see that there's nothing to be afraid of. We're eternal beings. Yeah. If I die right now in this moment, it's just this dies. I don't die. No. I go on. There's nothing to be afraid of. It's an absolutely beautiful world. And there's a bunch of very negative forces that don't want us to appreciate this world. And they're being driven by fear. is what they're being driven by. And we have to segregate ourselves from the fearful.
Yeah.
I'll not hang with you. If you start expressing fear with me, I'm going to break off the relationship.
Yeah.
I can't go there. I just can't. And I can't, if you're going to rule your life, you're going to do it on your own. You're not going to do it on my time.
No.
So that's how I am. And I'll break a relationship off in a second, and I will not look back. And so, I talk to people. When I talk to people, I'm actually poking a stick at them. I'm trying to find out what you're made of. And I don't care what people think of me. When I talk to you, I want to find out who you are spiritually. Yeah. I want to know what you're made of, what you're going to do in a tight situation. Do you run towards an accident, or do you run away from an accident? What kind of person are you? Yeah. And when I finally figure out what kind of person you are, then I make my decision. Do I want this person to be close to me, or do I want this person to be away from me? More than likely, it's away from me. It's very few people I let in the door. I keep my friends close and tight and small. Yeah. And I am totally devoted to them. I'm totally devoted to my family. Yeah. And I know that they're totally devoted to me, because that's one of the things I'm poking the stick on them. Yeah. I'm trying to find out what they're going to do when a panic time comes. Are they going to be with me, or are they going to be against me? Where do you stand? And do you have courage? And that's the number one thing I'm looking for in other people, is courage. And, when I was young, I inherited like $7,000 from a relative that died, and I was 22, and I had this money, and everybody's, oh, why don't you travel the world, and why don't you do that? And there were no film schools back then, so I couldn't go to film school, but I wanted to be a filmmaker. So I just went and I made a film. I took the $7,000. I didn't know what I was doing. I wrote a script. I made the film. I had to borrow $5,000 from a guy who ran a carnival, who came after me, for his money, because I couldn't pay him back. Yeah. And I made this film, and it wasn't a really good film or anything, but it was a film, and I took it to Hollywood, and everybody was so impressed I had made a film that they bought my screenplay, another screenplay I had. And so Goethe, the philosopher, said that when you make an action, you create ramification actions that go forward for you. And if you do something positive and good, it's gonna echo out into the world. Yes. So your actions form the reality around you. Absolutely. Reality is like a mirror of you, and you are making that reality every moment of every day, and you choose. You choose what your reality is. You choose who you are. You choose what you want to be, and you will be that. You will become that. I guarantee it. If you're 20 years old and you're listening to this right now, ask yourself what it is, where you want to be when you're 50. Yeah. What is it that you want to be? And don't say you want to be rich.
No, don't say that, please. Don't
say that.
Live your excitement.
That is the road to. You can be a drug dealer and be rich. So,
it's not about the money.
That's not the goal. The goal is, what do you want to be? Where do you want to be? Do you want to have a happy family? You want to have friends? You want to live in a nice place? Yeah. Every dream, I can say this, I knock on wood, every dream that I had in my 20s, I achieved. Every dream, right? Where I wanted to live, I live exactly where I wanted to live. I live exactly the way I want to live. I chose my career. I did what I wanted to do. And I didn't do it because I'm selfish. I did it because I wanted to do it. Yeah. I had a desire to do it. And the payback has been tremendous.
Can I ask on that? I mean, that thank you for sharing that for the audience. That's beautiful. I always say, I mean, obviously I'm an artist, so I paint, I create, I do woodwork. I have made a documentary. I'm now doing podcasts and that. But I always say to myself, and I say to others, if you don't get it, don't worry. Just do what you love. Live your passion. You could be a road sweeper. You could be a gardener. You could be a chef. It's not about fame and fortune. If it excites you and you want to do it, and you're in that childlike joy of imagination, and because artists are creative beings, and the creativity then alters and shifts the reality you experience. And obviously, you being a creative being, you knew what you wanted to do. I come in painting. It has changed, I must admit. I now paint totally different. But I used to paint as a toddler, and I've always painted. And I've been in the joy when I'm within art, or making something with my hands, or creating a trailer for a podcast, or the documentary I made when I was in that workplace. So that's and every time it opened me more, and the fears dropped as well, because I was living my reality, my dream, not what's out there, Jay. I'm in total agreement with you on this. And on that note, if you've got more,
Well, just one more thing. Right before my father died, he died at 93, well, a couple of years ago. He called me up, and he pretty much was telling me he was saying goodbye to me.
Yeah.
You know, he kind of chose to die, which is kind of cool, actually. You know, so you get to choose. I'm going to die today. See you later. And so he calls me up and he says, "Well, Jay, I just want you to know something." He's a very successful businessman. And he says, I've known a lot of people in my life, but I have never known anyone that took the amount of risks that you took in your life. He said, and every time you did it, I just, choked up and go, oh my God, what is he doing now? Right. And every time you did it, you failed a lot, but every time you went further and further up the ladder. Yeah. And he said, I just want you to know, I'm really impressed. And it was the greatest compliment I ever got. Because when we were young, my dad and I were always at odds with each other, right?
Yeah. But you got the recognition in the end. But that's, I think, eventually each being comes to the point where they take back the control, where they've been disempowered, they become empowered as they gently awaken to their to who they truly are, this magnificent beings we are. And it's beautiful to see that, and especially in young people with the creativity they're coming out with. It's different from our generations, but however, it's still there. It's still beautiful. And the courage, you need to make choices. There's no right or wrong choice. The choice is your own. And I'd like to say to everyone watching this podcast, what you can take from this conversation between me and Jay, if it resonates, please take it. If it doesn't, put it to one side for now. We've all got different truths, and that's how it should be. We're all experiencing the human experience, and we're all coming from a different perspective, and that's the beauty of it. Jay, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. And I look forward to having you on the live show next year. It's going to be wonderful. If people are interested, I'm sure everyone's aware of you, Jay, but just in case, especially in the UK, is there any Facebook or sites or anything with a website you could just give out?
My free stuff is on jweidner.com, all my articles.
Okay.
Where all my films are. They're also up on Gaia TV.
Okay.
And then I have my own show on YouTube, Reality Check, which I do once a week. And I interview a lot of really interesting people and explore a lot of these same concepts that you're exploring.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. So if you're interested in any of Jay's concepts, connect to him. Oh, I've lost him. Oh, there you go. Never mind. He just got cut off. Thank you, everybody. That was a good ending. Thank you, everybody, for watching the podcast this evening. And I look forward to the next conversation. Take care. Bye for now.